Heartwarming miracle. Millionaire discovers little girl's hidden need after shocking milk theft. Jack Thompson, a 38-year-old millionaire, stood frozen in the dairy aisle of the local grocery store, his gaze locked on a small figure darting past him. A young girl, no more than 8, had boldly snatched a carton of milk from the shelf and was sprinting out the door, her blonde ponytail whipping behind her like a golden banner. His heart raced, torn between intrigue and concern. How could a child feel so desperate as to steal? As he followed her outside, the sun cast a warm glow across the neighborhood, painting the white picket fences and the colorful flower beds in hues of gold. Jack's life had always been about precision and success, winning in business and celebrating his accomplishments. Yet, here was this girl, small and courageous, a startling reminder of a world he had abandoned. She dashed down the street, laughter mingling with the breathlessness of flight. Jack remembered the stories his late grandfather had told him, lessons of hard work and the importance of lifting those who struggle. He felt a tightness in his chest, echoing the disconnection he had from his own community. The roots of comfort had grown too deep, wrapping him in a cocoon of wealth that might have suffocated genuine humanity. What was happening here, in plain sight, was a stark reality check. When Jack finally caught up with her, he found her crouched behind a bush, clutching the carton close to her chest. "I just wanted milk," she whispered, eyes wide with a mix of gratitude and caution, as if she expected him to scold her. Jack's heart swelled at her vulnerability, but instinctively, he felt the barrier of privilege pushing back against him. "Hey, I saw what happened back there," he said cautiously, kneeling to her level. "I can help you. We can pay for it together." The words hung in the air, and to his surprise, Lily's head tilted in defiance. "I don't need your help," she muttered, almost as if it pained her to accept kindness. His intended generosity sat heavy on their chests, and he realized that offering help was easy. Understanding was the real challenge. As days turned to weeks, the tension between them persisted. Jack found himself drawn to the local community center, hoping to learn more about Lily's life. It was there he overheard whispers that tore at his heart: overdue medical bills, empty kitchen cabinets, the crushing weight of bills piling up like a mountain. The shadows in Lily's world grew darker, and as he stood there, the realization hit him hard. He couldn't remain an outsider any longer. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. More than anything, Jack craved to be a part of their reality, yet fear and uncertainty gnawed at him. He recalled a chance encounter with Lily's mother, a woman who wore her pride like armor. Their conversation began to crack that armor as Lily's mother revealed the dark underbelly of their struggles. Jack's heart raced as the truth spilled out: a frantic need for security, a chaotic life in a world that often judged them for their circumstances. Here he stood, a man perched on the edge of two worlds. Would he dare push through the walls of pride around Lily and her family, or would he retreat back to the comfort of his own privilege, letting their plight continue in silence? The stakes were rising, and the shadows of injustice loomed larger. Jack could feel the pull of fate between him and a little girl who had risked everything for something so simple. The choice before him was overwhelming, and he stood gasping at the divide that awaited him, a reality more profound than any he had ever known. Jack couldn't shake the image of Lily crouched behind that bush. Her innocent desperation gnawed at him long after he left the grocery store. The sounds of the neighborhood buzzed around him, but all he could hear were the whispers of the community center. He had to act. It was time to break down the walls, not just between their worlds, but within himself. The next day, Jack returned to the community center with a purpose. He arrived early, the morning sunlight bathing everything in a golden hue. He watched as families trickled in, each carrying their own burdens. He felt conspicuous in his tailored suit among the worn jeans and faded t-shirts, but today, he was determined to blend in. He stepped forward, taking a seat near the craft table where children were busy creating colorful pieces of art. "Hey, you're back." A lively voice caught his attention. It was Sarah, the community center director, a woman with infectious energy. "I'm glad you're here. We could use an extra set of hands." Jack smiled, grateful for the welcome. "How can I help?" As the morning unfolded, he assisted with activities, laughing and learning the names of the children. It was a joy he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. He was getting lost in their stories when he noticed Lily at the door. She stood there shyly, clutching a ragged purple backpack. Their eyes met, and Jack's heart did a little leap. "Lily," he called, beckoning her over. She hesitated, eyes darting toward the exit, but something in Jack's expression must have reassured her. Slowly, she approached, her footsteps tentative. "This is my friend Lily," he announced to the other kids. "She's going to join us today." The children cheered, and Lily's face transformed tentative to curious, almost smiling. As the day progressed, Jack stayed close. He learned that the purple backpack held more than just school supplies. It was stuffed with hopes and dreams, pages of drawings and scrappy letters to her favorite characters. Her resilience shone bright against the shadows of her life. Jack felt an unfamiliar swell of admiration for this little girl who had carved out joy against all odds. Just as they started a painting project, a loud commotion caught their attention. A group of teenagers had barged in, laughing and tossing bits of candy around, the sticky wrappers landing in the laps of unsuspecting kids. The laughter turned into sneers as they mocked the younger children for their art, shoving them aside. Jack felt his blood boil. Instinctively, he stepped forward, positioning himself between the teenagers and the kids. "Hey," he shouted, projecting a firmness he rarely used. "This is not how we treat each other here. Everyone is welcome." The laughter halted, eyes sizing him up. The teenagers exchanged glances, perhaps surprised by the confrontation, and one of them stepped forward. "Who do you think you are, man?" he sneered. "This is just a place for losers." But Jack didn't back down. "No," he said with conviction, "this is a haven for creativity, a space for everyone regardless of their life struggles. And you're not welcome to bring negativity in here." Lily was watching, her eyes wide. Jack could see the respect forming. This was no longer about privilege, it was about unity, standing together against adversity. The group began to retreat, sensing they weren't going to win this one. As the tension eased and laughter returned, Jack felt something shift inside him. Perhaps this community needed more than just his money. They needed solidarity, someone willing to fight for them, however big or small. He turned back to Lily, who was now beaming, that proud smile hugging her small face. "You are brave," she whispered, and for the first time, he saw her see him not as a millionaire, but as a protector. Jack knelt beside her, hope igniting in his heart. "We can create something beautiful here, together." But as the day faded, a mysterious knock came at the door. Something inside Jack's gut twisted as uncertainty fell over the crowd. What would this new visitor bring to their fragile world? Jack turned toward the door, his heart racing. The warmth of the day abruptly shifted to a chill that wrapped around him like a cold blanket. He could feel the tension in the air as the laughter of the children faded into hushed whispers. Eyes shifted towards the entrance, curiosity blending with apprehension.
"Who could that be?"
Sarah murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack's mind raced. Was it someone from the neighborhood? A parent looking for help? Or something darker, a threat to the fragile peace they had just established? His instincts kicked in. He straightened his posture and took a cautious step toward the door, letting the children's soft faces anchor him. "Stay here," he said quietly to Lily, who nodded, her wide eyes reflecting a mix of excitement and fear. He reached for the door, hesitating for just a moment before swinging it open. A tall figure stood there, framed by the setting sun. A man, disheveled and weary, with a wild look in his eyes. Jack's stomach twisted at the sight. The man didn't appear dangerous, though something about him felt unsettling. "Can I help you?" Jack asked, his voice steady but cautious. The man shifted nervously, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone to chase him. I heard there was help here. A community center for kids. I'm looking for my daughter. The words struck Jack like a bolt of lightning. His heart dropped. What's her name? Lily, he said, the name slipping from his lips almost like a prayer. Jack's breath caught in his throat. He turned slightly, instinctively scanning for Lily among the children. She was still at the craft table, feigning interest in her painting but watching intently. Lily is here, Jack said slowly, returning his gaze to the man at the door. Why do you need her? I haven't been a good father, the man began, his voice cracking, revealing the strain of years etched on his face. I lost my job. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I thought things would get better, but they didn't. I didn't want to, but I had to. He stopped, his hands trembling. Jack realized he was witnessing a man unraveling before him. You need to talk to her, he urged gently, remembering the look of joy on Lily's face just moments before. This was more than just a confrontation. It was a chance for real healing. Could they bring this family back together? Lily had started to move closer now, drawn in by the gravity of the situation. What's going on? She asked, her small voice cutting through the tension. Jack turned, his heart aching at the uncertainty on her face. The man stepped forward, eyes brimming with unshed tears. Lily, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have left. Jack's heart raced. He had to think quickly. The fragile stability of the day was teetering on the edge. Lily, this is your dad, he said softly, gripping her shoulder with reassurance. As she processed his words, a whirlwind of emotions played across her face. Confusion, hope, fear, each flickering like candlelight in a breeze. Dad? She whispered, taking a hesitant step back. The man looked desperation-stricken, hands outstretched like he was reaching for something precious. Jack held his breath, watching as their worlds collided, uncertain of what would happen next. Could forgiveness blossom here, amid the chaos of their lives? What will this mean for us? Jack thought, as silence enveloped the room. In that moment, he realized this was not just about the past. It was a turning point for everyone involved. What would come next would determine their futures and possibly mend broken hearts. Lily stood frozen, her mouth slightly agape, eyes darting between her father and Jack. The weight of the moment pressed on everyone in the room like a heavy fog, clouding their thoughts and emotions. Jack's grip on her shoulder tightened involuntarily, urging her to find her voice again. Why did you leave? Lily finally managed, her small voice barely breaking through the palpable tension. The man, her father, took a trembling breath as if pulling in strength from the air around him. I was scared, Lily. I thought you'd be better off without me. I thought if I could fix things, if I could get a job again, I could come back and show you I could be a better dad, but it didn't work out that way. Every word seemed to land heavier than the last. Jack watched Lily's face twist in a mix of confusion and hurt. Jack's heart ached for her. He could almost feel her little heart breaking, the shards slicing through the fragile hope that had been built. Didn't you want to see me? She asked, her voice just above a whisper. Tears spilled down the man's face, carving paths of sorrow and regret. I did, more than anything. But I thought maybe you'd be happier without me around. There was the raw honesty, but also the despair. Jack felt a surge of protectiveness over Lily as he stepped forward. She needs you now. She needs to hear that she's loved, no matter what mistakes you've made. The man's gaze shifted between Jack and Lily, reading the gravity of those words. I came here because I was too ashamed to knock before. I've done terrible things, but I never stopped thinking about you. Thinking alone doesn't fix things, Jack maintained, his voice firm, almost like a father's. But you're here now. That means something. Lily moved just a fraction closer, her tiny frame trembling but with an air of newfound courage despite the confusion still swirling in her innocent heart. Can you love me now? She asked. The question hung heavy in the air like an unquenchable flame. I never stopped, Lily, he said, his voice breaking as he reached out. I'm so sorry. I want to try. Please give me a chance. Cautiously, she stepped forward, her instinctive need for her father outweighing her lingering doubt. "Okay," she whispered, her small voice barely audible. Then she was in his arms, tightly held, as if trying to pull years of absence into the present. Jack felt the tear in the fabric of their world begin to knit together, but doubt still lingered in his heart. Could trust be rebuilt even from such a shattered beginning? He turned his gaze to the other children, who were watching the scene unfold, their small faces lit with a mixture of awe and hope. They knew instinctively that they had witnessed a turning point not just for Lily, but possibly for all of them. Just then, Sarah stepped forward, her brow furrowed with unspoken thoughts. "If we can help make this work, we will," she said firmly. The determination in her voice rippled through the room, a silent promise that they wouldn't stand alone. "Thank you," the man said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll do whatever it takes." But Jack couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was just beginning. "Then you better find a way to show it," he said quietly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He knew the struggle ahead wouldn't be easy. The path to healing was littered with uncertainties. What if he can't? Jack wondered inwardly. What if all this is a temporary fix? As those thoughts coiled in his chest, he glanced back at Lily and her father, locked in their embrace. There was a flicker of hope in that moment, a promise of what could be if they all dared to believe again. But just as the warmth of that moment settled, the wind howled outside, shaking the windows. A new sense of urgency rushed through him. What lay ahead for them? Were they prepared for the battles yet to come, both within and outside their home? For now, though, in that shared space of vulnerability, Jack understood one thing. Healing takes time, and sometimes it starts with just one step. What happened next could either tear them apart or bind them closer together. And with that thought, Jack felt the ground beneath him shift. Was this truly the beginning of something new? Lily was still nestled in her father's arms, her small frame trembling but now warmed by a flicker of hope. Jack's heart squeezed at the sight. It was a moment that could heal or profoundly scar them, depending on what came next. "I want to take you for ice cream," her father said, his voice steady but laced with emotion. Lily pulled back slightly to look at him, her eyes filled with a mix of excitement, skepticism, and the raw innocence of a child longing for connection. "Ice cream?" she whispered, biting her lip as she considered the offer. "Yeah, just the two of us. I can make it up to you. I've missed so much time." Jack shifted uneasily, trying to gauge if this sudden gesture could truly bridge the chasm of absence. "You know, it's not just about ice cream," he interjected gently. "You need to show her no, prove to her that you'll stick around, come what may." The man nodded slowly, taking his son's words to heart. "I understand. It's just, I don't know how to be a dad after everything. But I will try. I promise I will try." Lily, still torn between her longing for a father and the hurt of abandonment, reached up and touched her father's cheek tentatively. "You'll come back after ice cream, right?" she asked softly, the innocence of her question breaking Jack a little more inside. "Always," he assured her, and for a moment, they shared a world that felt untouched by doubt. As they stepped outside, Jack lingered behind, watching them. Lily was still hesitant, but she took her father's hand, and that alone sent a wave of warmth flooding through him, even amidst his anxiety. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that just beyond that moment of connection, storms were brewing, both inside and outside their home. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah's voice cut through Jack's thoughts. She stood beside him, arms crossed, her face a picture of concern mixed with hope. Jack sighed, crossing his arms as he followed their movements through the window. "Honestly, I don't know. But what if this is their chance to really connect? What if this is what Lily needs? But what if it isn't?" Sarah countered. "What if it's just another promise that goes unfulfilled?" The shadows of doubt loomed large as Jack allowed those words to settle. "We can't shield them from everything, Sarah. Sometimes, all we can do is hold our breath and hope for the best. But do we really trust him?" she whispered, nearly pleading with her eyes. Before he could respond, The door swung open, and the man stepped out with Lily, her small hand clasped tightly in his. There was a lightness in the air, a tiny spark igniting the cool evening. "We'll be back soon," he called out, a newfound determination flickering in his voice. "Just until ice cream," Lily chimed, her laughter cutting through the weight of tension. Jack managed a smile, but it felt like a mask, hiding the uncertainty that churned beneath the surface. As they walked away, doubt tangled with hope, Jack couldn't ignore the awkward knot in his stomach. He felt torn fingers crossed, but also prepared for disappointment. Could this truly be the start of something worth saving? He murmured to himself. As they turned the corner, embraced by the shadows of faded daylight, Jack stared into the deepening dusk. Their journey had shifted, but the truth remained. Moments like these were fragile fleeting sparks that might just illuminate their dark paths or lead them into uncharted territory. And just then, the wind stirred again, bringing with it a whisper of something else, a shadow in the corner of his eye. Jack turned quickly, heart racing as he realized that not everything lurking outside was a gentle breeze. What dangers waited, unseen, ready to threaten the fragile peace they were trying so hard to achieve. Jack leaned against the door frame, his heart thumping as he scanned the street for the source of the disturbance. Shadows danced in the twilight, twisting in eerie shapes. The neighborhood felt charged, like the calm before a storm. Could it be just his nerves working overtime? Or was something more sinister hovering just out of sight? He wrestled with the unease, but turned away from the door, letting out a slow breath. They were out getting ice cream, a simple outing that bore the weight of so much hope. Lily was finally letting her father back in, a gesture that filled him with equal parts gratitude and fear. In that moment, Sarah moved closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "What did you see?" "I thought I saw something just beyond the trees," Jack admitted, his brow knitting in concern. "But maybe I'm just being paranoid." "You're not." She folded her arms tighter, a protective stance for them both. "Worrying is part of being a parent. It means you care." They stood in silence, needing the space filled with nothing but shared concerns. As they waited, time felt like a blanket pulling heavier with each passing moment. The weight of their choices, the worry, the guilt, the hope settled around them. Meanwhile, Lily and her father strolled hand in hand, the ice cream shop just a few blocks away. The soft, indulging scent of waffle cones and chocolate wafted through the air, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. Lily's excitement bubbled over, her earlier hesitations melting away with each step. "Are you ready to pick our flavors?" her father asked, a grin lighting up his face. It was the first glimmer of joy in a long time. "Mint chocolate chip," Lily exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with delight, "and sprinkles." "I want sprinkles." Her father laughed, genuinely this time, an infectious sound that warmed the chill of the evening. "Sprinkles it is."
How about you?
"What flavor are you getting?" "I don't know yet," he replied, scanning the colorful menu. The shop was an explosion of joy, a contrast to the heaviness he felt inside. With each decision made alongside his daughter, he could feel the walls he built around his heart start to crack. As they stood in line, a sense of urgency bubbled beneath the surface. All those lost chances haunted him, but there was a determination burning bright now. He could fix this. Hovering thoughts of doubt only grew as he watched Lily bounce on her toes, blissfully unaware of the shadows lingering outside. But just as they stepped up to order, the bell over the door jingled, and Jack's voice echoed in his mind. Would it be enough? He caught Lily's eye, widening with enthusiasm as she gazed at the array of flavors. "Dad, look at that." She pointed, her face a canvas of pure joy. For a brief moment, he felt everything fall away, the guilt, the pressure, the weight of expectations. Just Lily and ice cream. Just this. He gripped the counter tightly, as if anchoring himself to the moment. 2 mint chocolates with sprinkles. Her father ordered, beaming with pride at his daughter's enthusiasm. Lily squealed, jumping up and down as they handed her the dripping cone. But just as they turned to go, a commotion echoed at the corner. A figure rushed by, bumping roughly into another. Gasps filled the air, slicing through their bliss like a sudden chill. Jack's heartbeat quickened. "Lily, wait here," he urged instinctively. "No," she protested, her grip tightening on his hand. "I want to go with you. Stay close." He couldn't shake off the feeling of dread that gnawed at him. What was happening? In the blink of an eye, chaos erupted. Jack could feel the glint of something sharp in the crowd, a flash of movement that sent shivers racing down his spine.
"Get back,"
he yelled. The fear was palpable in the suddenly frantic atmosphere, but all he could focus on was Lily. His gut twisted as he realized how tightly he had to hold on. "What is going on?" She looked up at him, confusion mixing with fear. Just then, everything shattered as the truth leaped like a flame. Images of what lay ahead loomed over them, a world painted with darker tones than they were prepared for. What dangers awaited? Would this ice cream date turn into a fight for safety instead? And all Jack could think of was one thing. Why hadn't he noticed the depth of their vulnerability sooner? The evening, with all its potential for healing, had become a canvas waiting for the first brush of disaster. Would he be able to shield Lily from the shadows surrounding them? The world was closing in, and with it a new battle was brewing. Jack's heart raced, the ice cream cone forgotten in Lily's small hand as the chaos unfolded around them. Voices rose in a jagged symphony of panic. The familiar street transformed into a battleground, a fusion of fear and confusion. Jack's instincts kicked in as he knelt down, bringing himself to Lily's level. "Listen to me, Lily," he urged, his voice steady despite the whirlwind surrounding them. "We need to stay calm. We're going to get away from here. Just hold my hand tight, all right?" Her big eyes, wide with uncertainty, darted between him and the chaos. "But, Dad, I don't want to leave." "I know, but trust me. Just stay close." With quick determination, Jack grabbed her hand like a lifeline. He glanced around, searching for an escape route through the crowd. People surged past them, lost in their frightened frenzy, unaware of the small world that mattered most right beside him. Suddenly, a loud shout drew his attention.
"Stop!"
"Thief!" It sliced through the atmosphere, igniting an urgency that fueled his fear. The figure from earlier, moving with a purpose, was now weaving through the mass of people. Jack clenched Lily's hand tighter. "We have to move, now." They began moving, stepping sideways, navigating efforts to keep their footing. Jack's anger surged at the chaotic world spilling over from the realm of ice cream and laughter. Each bump against their side felt like an omen of their vulnerability. But then another sound sliced through the chaos, a crackle, sharp and unexpected. The air froze for just a second before resuming, filled with gasps and shaky breaths. Jack's stomach dropped, and time slowed as he catapulted himself in front of Lily, shielding her with all the strength he had. "What was that?" Lily's voice trembled, a small whisper that broke his heart in two. It's okay," he murmured, trying to project calmness when the world around him was unraveling. Jack's focus sharpened as adrenaline kicked in. He could feel the palpable urgency of each heartbeat, the pulse of each terrified person around them. Then, as if the universe had blessed him with a beacon of luck, he spotted the ice cream shop, dim lit yet inviting, just a few feet away. "There!" he shouted, a wave of hope washing over him. "Let us get inside." They pushed through the chaos, Jack's protective nature igniting. He felt that instinct kick into high gear as they rushed through the door. The world inside the shop presented a brief bubble of safety. The comforting sense of waffle cones still clung to the air, creating a stark contrast to the terror outside. Lily, still trembling, pressed herself against the counter, eyes wide as she watched Jack anxiously glance toward the door. "Dad, what is going on?" she asked, fear still wrinkling her brow. Jack crouched beside her, his own breath shaky. "There was just some trouble, sweetie. But you're safe here." Behind them, the commotion droned on, muffled but unrelenting. But even in this moment of refuge, uncertainty gnawed at him relentlessly. What had really happened out there? How deep did the chaos stretch? Just the thought of her innocence being at stake made his heart clench painfully. Then, through the hum of the noise, he spotted a familiar face. Sarah had slipped inside, her expression a mix of relief and anxiety as she scanned the room, searching for them. When their eyes locked, a rush of unspoken understanding passed between them. They had to protect Lily at all costs, but as Jack took in Sarah's expression, it turned into confusion as she pointed toward the doorway. He turned, heart racing again, as he caught a flash of movement, an unexpected figure appearing just outside the shop, lingering.
Jack.
Sarah's voice cut through the chaos once more. What is happening? He felt the weight of so many emotions crashing down around him, threatening to sweep them all away. Could they truly shield Lily from the shadows that seemed to loom larger every moment? As fear morphed into determination, Jack stepped forward instinctively, standing between the door and his family. "Stay with Lily," he said, but Jack, didn't he know? If he was prepared for what lay ahead. Whatever dangers were waiting outside, Jack knew this serenity was just a fragile facade. His heart pounded with a single question: would they emerge from the chaos unscathed? Murmurs from outside grew louder, pulling him back into a world he wanted to forget. The shadows still danced, and with the tight grip of his family beside him, he braced himself for whatever storm was coming next. What awaited them as they faced the unknown? Jack's heart thundered in his chest as he stepped away from the door, his breath coming out in short, ragged gasps. His protective instincts were firing on all cylinders. He quickly turned back to Lily and Sarah, who were now huddled together, eyes fixed on him with fear and confusion. "Listen, we need to keep quiet," he whispered, his voice barely above a breath. "Stay close, and we'll figure this out." The vague movements outside the shop, a shadow seemed to grow more imposing, wrapping the air with uncertainty. Jack strained to hear the voices floating in, a blend of frantic shouts and subdued warnings weaving together into a tapestry of dread. His grip tightened around the counter, nails digging into the cool wood as he battled to center himself. Dad, Lily's voice was shaky, her little hand clutching a corner of his shirt. "What is that person doing out there?" Jack could hardly answer. All he could do was keep watching, parsing each movement outside. Bursts of people rushed by, and he could feel the anxiety in the air thickening, like a storm swirling just out of sight. "Stay right here, okay?" he said finally, his eyes darting to Sarah. She was always steady. She had a calming presence. "Sarah, can you keep an eye on her? I need to check what is going on." "Jack, be careful," she urged, her voice laced with concern. He nodded, steeling himself for what lay outside. But the truth was, every inch he took toward the door felt like stepping into a trap. He couldn't shake the instinct that danger was lurking just beyond. Taking a deep breath, Jack edged closer to the glass door. The moment he turned to peer out, his breath hitched in his throat. The figure was not just someone lost in the commotion. It was a man, wild-eyed and frantic, darting around the street as if preyed upon by unseen threats. "What is he doing?" Jack muttered to himself, barely aware that he spoke aloud. Then he noticed the flicker of a police light just beyond the edge of the shop, reflecting off the walls in desperate hues of blue and white. Fear clawed at him, the realization dawning that perhaps the chaos wasn't simply random and could grow worse with every tick of the clock.
"Jack."
Sarah's voice pierced through his haze. He spun around to find her crouched protectively next to Lily, fear written all over her face. "We need to leave. There's not much time." His mind raced as he weighed his options. Stay and face the unknown, or run into a world that had suddenly grown unfathomably dangerous. Just then, a sharp scream erupted from outside. The sound sliced through him, snapping Jack back to the present, igniting a fire in his gut. "Okay," he said, voice firm but low as he tried to mask his panic. "We're going to get out of here. On my count we'll run for the back exit." "Are you sure?" Sarah asked, her eyes wide, mirroring Jack's worries. "Trust me," he replied, his heart thrumming like wild wings against his ribcage. "On 3. 1, 2." Before he could say 3, the door blasted open. A terrified crowd surged in, tugging at Jack and swallowing him in waves of chaos. He reached for his family instinctively, their hands slipping away in the tumult.
Move.
A voice shouted, deep and resonant. Jack couldn't see who it was. The ice cream shop that had once felt like a sanctuary transformed into a racetrack of fear as people stumbled in and out. Jack's heart raced as he scanned the room for Lily and Sarah, desperation choking his throat as the crowd continued to push and pull. "Lily!" he yelled, panic surging through him like a current. In that moment of chaos, all he could feel was the icy grip of fear tightening around him. How could he protect them when he couldn't even find them? As fate intervened, he locked eyes with a stranger weaving through the fray, a look of recognition passing between them, silently communicating an unthinkable urgency. Jack's heart raced as he sensed a choice lay ahead, one that could change everything. But would he be able to take that leap into the unknown, to trust a stranger when his family had slipped into the shadows? Jack was about to find out, but everything depended on the next heartbeat. What was waiting just beyond that decision? Jack's pulse pounded in his ears, drowning out the chaos around him. The stranger dynamic and decisive motion for him to come closer. The man's face was etched with urgency, his eyes darting around as if they were racing against time. Unable to locate Lily and Sarah, Jack felt a cruel pinch of fear twist deep in his gut. "Follow me," the stranger shouted, extending a hand toward Jack.
"We need to move now."
Risking a glance back, Jack saw an arm outstretched, catching a familiar glimpse of Lily's beige sweater being pulled away by the crush of bodies. "Lily!" he screamed, panic threatening to sway him. The moment hung heavy like a guillotine waiting to drop. But the stranger remained steadfast, pushing against the human tide as he beckoned Jack forward with a resolute face.
"Come on."
"They'll follow us if we get out. We can't stay here." Trust was a luxury Jack couldn't afford, but the stranger's sheer ferocity sparked a flicker of hope. He wasn't alone in this frantic moment. Fueled by the need to protect his family, he lunged forward, grasping the stranger's outstretched hand. "Wait for me," he cried, praying that somehow Lily and Sarah were just behind him. As they surged through the doorway, darkness enveloped them outside, the air thick with tension. The streets were a battleground, distant yells merging with the shrieking sirens that haunted the night. The smell of smoke brushed his senses, a harsh reminder that danger was close. "Where are we going?" Jack managed to ask, his voice drowning in a sea of uncertainty. "Just keep moving. There's a safe spot a few blocks away," the stranger responded, his voice cutting through the crowd's chaos. The man's frame was solid, unyielding as he led Jack through the pandemonium. Every step Jack took felt like wading through quicksand, the fear twisting sharply as he recalled the moment Lily's hand slipped from his grasp. He fought through the swirling thoughts that threatened to overwhelm him. "Lily! Sarah!" he yelled again, each shout feeling more desperate than the last. Why hadn't he been quick enough? Jack felt the warm grip of the stranger's hand tighten, snapping him back to the present. "Focus. We'll find them. Just stay with me." Their surroundings devolved into an uproar as they raced down alleyways and side streets. Jack's heart raced with each harried breath he took. The noise diminished, replaced by a heavy silence that suffocated his thoughts. "Hold on, we can't stay in the open," the stranger said, darting into a shaded alcove behind a row of boarded-up shops. Jack's heart sank as he took in the darkness. Was this really a safe place? "Please, I just need to find my family," Jack stammered, pacing restlessly, catching glimpses of fear etched into the stranger's features. "I understand," the man said, eyes locked on Jack's. "Once things settle, we can look for them. But right now, I need you to trust me, okay? Just for a little while longer." Jack nodded, clutching the edges of his shirt. The bond of trust formed in such harrowing moments was all he had left. Just then, the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed nearby. Jack's heart dropped. They could not be caught here. "What if it's them?" he whispered, hope mingling with dread. "Let us not take that chance," the stranger urged, moving toward the edge of the alcove, squinting into the shadows. "Stay close." Suddenly, an unrecognizable voice broke through the tension, cutting the silence like a knife. Anyone here? Show yourselves. Every instinct screamed for him to flee. Would they find safety, or would the chaos swallow them whole? Jack clenched his fists, ready for whatever came next. Because the moment of truth was here, and he had no choice but to confront it. Who was lurking just out of sight, waiting to change everything once again. The chaos surged around them, a cacophony of desperate voices and pounding feet. Jack's heart raced, his focus shifting back to the presence of the stranger beside him, who guided him through the darkness like a beacon of hope. He could feel a weight, heavy and suffocating, pressing down on him with each frantic breath. "Stay low," the stranger whispered, eyes scanning the shadows. The fear etched into Jack's skin left him trembling, but the thought of Lily and Sarah fueled his determination. He leaned against the cold wall, heart pounding as he quietly peered into the night. "Where are they?" he murmured, desperation creeping into his voice. The stranger shifted beside him, urgency filling the air. "I promise, we'll find them," the man replied, his voice steady amid the rising panic.
Just keep calm.
As they crouched there, tucked away from the turmoil, Jack couldn't shake the thought of his little girl. Memories raced through his mind: Lily's laughter, her smiles, the magic they'd almost created together. He could still feel her tiny hand slip from his, and guilt clawed at his insides. What if I failed her? He thought, clenching his fists. A sudden cry drifted in from the street, sending a shiver down his spine. "Search everywhere." It echoed like a thunderclap, rattling the darkness around him. Jack's breath hitched, every muscle in his body locked with fear. Who were these voices hunting for? Were they looking for Lily? "Listen carefully," the stranger said, his voice low but firm.
This is going to be our chance.
"When I give the signal, we're moving. Just follow my lead." Jack nodded, shared resolve anchoring him. He peered deeper into the shadows, anxiety flickering at the edges of his thoughts. He knew they had to act before the darkness swallowed them whole. The moment stretched, and Jack's heart felt ready to burst. "Please, Lily," he thought, "be safe." He took a deep breath, feeling the sweat form on his brow, the anxious energy radiating through him as they waited, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Then the stranger nodded sharply.
"Now."
The words sparked a fire in Jack's chest as they slipped from the alcove and dashed toward the nearest alleyway. The outside world ignited around them with sudden chaos, shouts lingering in the air like ominous clouds. They maneuvered through side streets, shadows darting around them. Jack's breaths were ragged, his heart hammering wildly at the idea that Lily could be out there alone. Just hold on, he thought, reminding himself of their bond, the strength of family. Time blurred as they rushed through the unfamiliar streets, but then relief hit him like a splash of cold water. A familiar voice pierced through the chaos.
"Jack."
It was Sarah. The sight of her triggered pure adrenaline, and he pushed through the throng of frightened people. "Sarah," he shouted, urgency driving him closer. She emerged through the crowd, eyes wide and frantic. "I couldn't," he find just then. A figure dashed past them, and Jack's heart dropped. Fear surged.
"Wait,"
he called, his voice rising in alarm. But before he could process, that figure skidded to a stop.
"Dad."
A familiar voice trembled through the air. Jack's heart leaped at the sound, and he spun around to find Lily standing beside Sarah, her small frame shaking with confusion and relief. "Lily!" He rushed to her, enveloping her in his arms. She melted into him, the warmth of her tiny body grounding his world. The suffocating fear within him started to ebb. "Are you okay?" Jack pulled back, cupping her face, searching for any signs of hurt. Lily nodded, eyes glistening with tears. "Where were you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I was looking for you, sweet girl." His gaze met Sarah's, their relief palpable, weaving them together again. "We need to get somewhere safe," she interjected, glancing nervously at the looming shadows of chaos surrounding them. "We couldn't stay out in the open." Jack nodded, determination surging anew. "We can go to the community center," he suggested, gripping Lily's hand firmly as the stranger reappeared beside them.
Stick close, the
enigmatic figure warned, leading them toward a nearby passage. As they hustled through the side streets, Jack couldn't help but feel the weight of the world resting upon them. But there, in his grasp, lay a flicker of hope. Lily's hand in his. When they burst through the doors of the community center, it felt as if the storm outside stumbled to a halt. Familiar faces were gathered, a symbol of solidarity. The place hummed with energy, a refuge they urgently needed. Jack's mind raced, piecing together the fragments of their recent encounters. "Lily," he said, crouching down so he was eye level with her. "You're safe now." "We're all safe." She nodded, though uncertainty still glimmered in her wide eyes. "We'll do this together," Sarah added, looping her arm comfortingly around Lily. "We are like a family now, and nobody can tear that apart." The onslaught of noise from outside faded, underpinned by whispers of worry coiling through the air. Jack gathered strength, each heartbeat steering him towards something profound, the understanding that together they could weather whatever storm awaited them. "Thank you," Jack said, turning to the stranger who had guided their escape. "I don't know your name, but thank you for helping us." The stranger nodded, a small smile creeping onto his face. "That's all that matters," he said quietly. "Unity is strength. Keep fighting for each other." In that moment, Jack knew their journey would be riddled with challenges, but within this chaos a community stood strong. They would rebuild, redefine, and heal. As laughter slowly started to fill the room again, weaving around their fragile hearts, Jack felt lighter, embers of hope flickering in their shared strength. They had faced the storm, and together they would rise anew. Each challenge would make them stronger, bound by love, resilience, and hope for whatever lay ahead. Now was the time to show what truly mattered, and he was ready to step into that light alongside his family. Don't let this journey end here. Be part of what is to come. You need to subscribe now for exclusive stories that touch the heart. Leave a like now to fuel the conversation and show your support. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this emotional conclusion. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to feel this transformation. This is the moment to uplift our community together.